In a chilling reminder of just how much there has been a drastic change in terms of the US immigration enforcement, a Bahamian woman who was traveling through TSA ended up being detained and is on a pathway for deportation. How did this happen? Yes, I did say TSA. Not Customs and Border Patrol or an immigration officer, but TSA. Stay tuned while we dive into these trending and new developments within the United States immigration enforcement policies and how it might affect you or anyone that you might know that is undocumented and the pathway that you should be taking if it is that you are in this situation. So, stay tuned. Welcome back to the Next Level Life Hacks, where we take the next steps needed to go towards our financial freedom and our success. Now, as a point of reminder, regarding any immigration matters that you might have, look in the description box. If you have any pressing immigration matters that you need assistance in being sorted out, check in the description box for the consultation agency that we always recommend. If it is that you mentioned that you got their information from the Next Level Life Hacks YouTube channel, and once you give them your username and we verify that you are a subscriber to the channel, then your consultation session is completely free. And this consultation session can be anywhere from 15 to 1 hour in terms of duration, because we have to make sure that we collect the information from you and that we are able to assist you properly. Now, in moving forward in the story for today, a family outing of a husband, wife, and their daughter turned into a nightmare experience at the Fort Lauderdale airport as they were heading home. Now, as this woman was going through TSA, she realized that they were having some issues in terms of scanning her identification.
She went through TSA, they was giving her a hard time with her ID, and they were saying that it wasn't scanning.
This was not a regular problem though, because what they later realized is that they were just stalling so that they could bring in ICE and other agents so that she could be detained. Now, as I mentioned before, the bizarre situation here is that this occurred at TSA. Now, let's dive a little bit deeper in terms of defining certain things, because I'm sure some of you might be wondering, then what's the big deal? What is TSA? And why is there such a concern over this latest development? So let me enlighten you. TSA is actually an acronym for Transportation Security Administration. Yes, Transportation Security Administration. Having nothing to do with immigration or border patrol, they are there to ensure that there is safety and security within whatever transportation system that they are assigned to. Now, if you want to know where they are usually located, when you join that long line before your luggage is screened, they are the officers that are actually the ones that you hand your ID to. They'll ask you to look into the camera before they allow you then to the other section that you will take off your belt, take off your shoes. You will put your personal items on the conveyor belt and then they will be scanned. If there's any suspicion that you might have liquids or powders or anything that is not allowed to be a carry-on item on the flight, then you will be stopped. You will have a secondary inspection and the items will be removed, or you will just be searched and released, because some of the times the scanning equipment is not working properly, or you will find that if it is that your carry-on item has too many items packed in it and they are packed tightly, if the scanning machine cannot identify some of the items that are coming up, then they will ask for a search, just to make sure that what they cannot properly identify on the scanning machine does not pose a threat for the flight. I forgot to mention as well that the TSA was actually introduced after the 9/11 terrorist attacks, that persons were able to get on those flights with objects that they could then threaten the pilot, threaten the flight attendants, and then send the aircraft into those buildings. So as I mentioned before, they are really there to secure the transportation system. Another thing that I must enlighten you on is that undocumented immigrants were able to travel freely within the United States once they had a valid ID, and it did not have to be a United States issued identification. If they had the passport from their home country, then they could easily take flights from anywhere to and from within the United States. I personally have always thought that it was a bit risky, that if you're an illegal immigrant within the United States, then Why would I feel so confident in traveling on flights that I'm going through TSAs and there can be immigration officers around and I might just be randomly asked for an inspection or to view your identification? So even while my family's documentation were in process, I had high trepidation in terms of traveling within the United States, just in case any of my family members were asked for their documents and I knew that they were in process. So therefore, this is no secret to the United States administration, and therefore, if it is that they realize that illegal immigrants are able to travel freely within the United States as a measure of cracking down on illegal immigration and restricting their movement and letting them feel more confined and thus more able to be captured, detained, and deported, then it is only natural that this would be another step in the process. Another thing, for over the last 5 to 7 years, the Real ID has been toyed around with and contemplated in terms of implementation, but it has never yet been able to be implemented fully. Now, what is the Real ID, you might ask? Previously, undocumented immigrants could get a driver's license in some states or even a state ID without provided documentation that they had legal status within the United States. So they were not asked to provide things like utilities in their names, your social security number, or your passport. You could very well just go in with any ID. You could sometimes get a letter from your landlord or anyone within your household to say that you are a resident at that address, and you could get a state ID or you could get a driver's license. That is now changing, because for you to get a state ID or to get your driver's license, you now have to provide evidence that you have legal status within the United States. And what are these things, you might ask? You will be asked to provide your social security number. You have to provide utilities that are in your name. And if it is that you are renting or you have a mortgage, you have to provide that lease agreement or that mortgage contract to show that they are in your name. So the system is being tightened. Now, for this year, the Real ID policy is set to be implemented on May 7. Yes, write it down. May 7, if it is that you do not have your Real ID, then you're going to be facing significant challenges at TSA, traveling within the United States, or even while you are stopped by police officers on highways. Now, of course, there are going to be some glitches and there might be some states that are not yet ready. However, there is now a mandate and a push for a May 7 introduction date. Now, that was a lot of explanation, but I just wanted to make sure that you were clear on all the surrounding issues of this story. So let's get back to the story. So this Bahamian woman has been living in the United States for over 10 years. And during that 10 years, she was unable to get legal status within the United States because, as the husband has reported to the news media, they were facing challenges with their paperwork. And he even mentioned that his 24-year-old daughter had to refile their papers and their documentation. So she really was undocumented within the United States, but she was traveling freely within the United States, taking flights, because yes, a lot of undocumented persons do travel within the United States, as I mentioned before. Now, for reference and for a clearer explanation, let's jump to the news report with this topic.
Immigration stepped in and they determined that she has no criminal record, but because they determined that she's an overstay, they took her in.
An inmate of Baker County Jail. For account approval, press 1 to accept.
I miss you too, princess.
Oh yeah, come home.
A lot of people that were birthed here, that works here, don't understand what immigration or immigrants have to go through.
Now, as unfortunate as that situation is, it does highlight the point that the US immigration policy and enforcement is getting much more drastic. Therefore, if you or anyone you know is undocumented within the United States, it does not matter how long you have been here undocumented, it is also onus on you that you should be exploring every possibility to get documented, because it is not business as usual. Let's debunk some myths. One myth is that I have been here over 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, therefore I am being overlooked by ICE and Customs and Border Patrol because they know where I am not committing any offenses, so I can rest easy. False. The reality is that everyone that is undocumented, they are being targeted for deportation. It is on the mandate. This might be the most active period in the United States history that there has been so much highlight and focus on deportation. Therefore, you are not safe. The next myth that needs to be debunked is that if I have not committed any criminal offenses, I will be overlooked. False. The mere fact that you are here undocumented means that you are here illegally, and being here illegally is interpreted as committing a crime. Therefore, you are a criminal and you are in the first line of offense in terms of you are in the first draft to be deported. And the next myth that is obviously being debunked by this story, which is very surprising to several persons, is that I can travel domestically within the United States by flights with my ID and I will not be affected and I will not be troubled. False again. Unless you have a real ID effective May 7, you will be in jeopardy of further scrutiny, and if it is realized that you do not have a green card or legal status, then you will be detained and you will be facing deportation. Now, what happens after you are detained? Well, normally if it is that you have no criminal history, you would be released within 2 to 3 weeks, pending processing and pending an immigration judge or court, and then your fate would be decided. More than likely, deportation orders would be issued against you. But however, in this situation and in this climate now that everything is so uncertain and decisions are being made by the passing hour, you are not sure if you are going to be released within 2 to 3 weeks. However, one situation though is that in the detention centers, there is a 41,000 maximum bed capacity, and it is estimated now that there are 47,000 persons being detained. Therefore, there is a shortage of beds, and therefore they are more likely to be released within that 2 to 3 weeks. Now, whether that release is that you will be placed on a flight back to your home country, or if you have a criminal record, you might be sent to a prison in El Salvador, or you might be released back into the United States pending a court date for deportation orders to be issued against you, we do not know. But the Bahamian woman will either be sent back to Bahamas or be released within 2 to 3 weeks, hopefully, because as I said, this might be the most unstable and uncertain time in US immigration history. In terms of my lessons and warnings, now is not a time to be complacent. If it is that you are undocumented, regardless of the amount of time that you have been here, even if your paperwork are in process, you need to be careful where you go and what you do, because you could be detained and you could be sent back home regardless of the fact that your paperwork is in process or you have been here for an extended period. Additionally, even if you have a green card, it is now time to be careful. Careful of even petty crimes that you might be involved in, any fraudulent activities, even DUIs that you might get while driving, because now your green card is in a very fragile state, because unless you are a citizen, you are never really secure. Even as a citizen, if it is found out that you committed fraud in the processing of your citizenship, then your citizenship can be revoked and you can be deported. So now is a time that you need to keep your little self quiet and be careful as to what you do, where you go, even who you speak to about your situation. And once again, if it is that you need assistance, you cannot hide forever. As the measures become more drastic and more aggressive, look in the description box for the agents that you can contact to get a free consultation once you give your subscriber ID and you are saying that you got the information from this YouTube channel. All in all, be safe. If anyone you know can benefit from this information, please share it with them. If you found at least one point from this video to be informative and helpful to you, then please hit the like button, and if you are not yet subscribed, please subscribe so that you can be kept up to date with any arising topic in this area. Thank you for the privilege of your time. I enjoyed sharing this information with you, and see you in the next video.